Hi everyone, my name is Kajal Galotra, and in this series we will be talking about all the generation types that are present whenever you are working with Spring Boot with JP and Hibernate. I have created a basic Spring Boot project, and inside this Spring Boot project, this is my main class from where the application will get started. Inside this POM, I have dependencies. First dependency is for data JPA because I want to get connected to data. Then I have the second dependency by the name called Spring Boot Starter Web. This is because I want to make my application as a web application. Without this MySQL driver, I'll not able to get connected to MySQL. And this dependency is for Lombok, and Lombok will be helping us whenever we want to write all the getters, setters, constructors, all the boilerplate code. Use annotations of Lombok. Then after I have the dependency of this test. So I'm using Java version 22. In my project, I have started it from the person controller. That's the controller from where my flow will be starting. In this controller, I have only two methods. One is to get all the data from database by the name called getPersons. Then I have one method, the name called savePerson, in which I want to save the data to the database. I'll collect the data in my request body, and then I just want to save it. Now I have created one service, and inside this service, I'm only calling the repositories method. Inside this repository, you can see I have created this person repository as an interface, which is extending from JP repository. This JP repository is again an interface. This JP repository is acting as a standard for all ORMs, and Hibernate is one of the implementation of JPA. If you really want to use JPA with some other implementation except Hibernate, you can also use it. But whenever it comes to Spring Boot project, with JPA, Hibernate comes as a default implementation of it. If you want a detailed series about JPA and Hibernate, you can comment down, and I'll create a separate video for JPA and Hibernate separately. Inside this JPA repository, if I'll open this, it's an interface. It is taking two parameters. One for the table name for which I'm creating this repository, and second one is ID of that table. For this, I'll show you this is the table name, the person. This person is an entity. This @entity represents that this is a class which is present in my Java, as well as this is a table that is present in my database. This person class will be a class that is present in my Java, as well as the table should be present in the databases. I have used this @data and @noargument constructor. These are coming from Lombok. If you don't know about Lombok, I am sharing you a link onto this video. You can just check out if you want to that what exactly is Lombok. Now I have name and ID in my person class. I'll show you my properties. Inside these properties, I have the application name. Then after I've given a port to my application. Then I have provided the DDL auto update. Then I want to show the SQL queries. I have kept this as true. I'm providing the URL which I want to get connected to. This will connect to MySQL that is present on my local host by the name called Unlock Basics, and it will create the database if the database does not even exist. Okay, and then after my username to my local database is this, and my password to my local database is this. Let's try to understand why we need this ID always whenever we are working with JP repository. Let's go back into JP repository. You can see there are some methods which basically takes ID in it. For example, get by ID. That means it will try to search the data on ID. So whatever ID you will have, basis upon that ID, it will try to search the data into the table. You can see this get reference by ID. And after there is one more delete all by ID in batch. This JP repository is extending from this list CRUD repository. And inside this also you can see this find all by ID. Or if you will go into this repository, so find by ID is one method, exists by ID is one method. So point is that whenever it comes to JPA has a lot of methods where ID is getting passed. So whenever you want to make a table with the help of JPA and Hibernate, you have to make one entity class, and you should also have to define ID in this. Now I'll go back. If I'll show you, I have not used any annotation for the ID. When I'll try to run this application, you will able to see that the application has failed, and it says that this entity has no identifier. So in order to define the identifier in a table, you also have to use annotation by the name called @id. And I'll import this, which is coming from Jakarta persistence. Now if I'll try to run this again, you will able to see that this is running fine. My application has started. Now basically it created a table by the name called person, where id is this, which is not null, and name has this varchar, and I have made this id as a primary key. I have connected to MySQL, and inside this MySQL I have created a table called person manual. I'll show you describe person manual. Now you will able to see that I have two parameters by the name called name and id. Here inside this table you do not have any primary key. That means creating a table without creating a primary key is possible inside a database. Whenever it comes to creating a table with the help of JPA, it is not possible to create a table without giving ID to it. It will just throw you an exception whenever you will try to create a table with the help of JPA without defining ID annotation. But you can still create a table inside the database without defining, without primary key into that table. Creating the primary key is required because of JPA, not because of any underlying database.